This is the Skunk Fam podcast. If you have been following along with us on this series, you'll know that Joe Pietri has given us some really incredible information. He's also given us some amazing cultivation techniques. One thing I do want to say before we get started is I've had a few people messaging me saying, why are you being so negative? You know, why are you saying these things about people? And I just want to say one thing. A couple months ago, I watched my cousin die from colorectal cancer because she had no access to the medication she needed. I truly believe that the people we're talking about are directly related to the fact that people have no access to the medication they need. So this is a deeply personal subject for me. I know it's a deeply personal subject for these guys too. So before you come to my inbox asking me why I'm being negative, just know it's because when you watch someone die because they don't have access to a medication, that's why you come to the place we're at now. We're trying to get this information out about these people because we believe everyone should have access to cannabis. It is the most important drug and medication of all time. So, I'm probably...
And not only that, we want people to have access to the real cannabis, the old school cannabis,
exactly.
Not the absolute bullshit
that's being pumped
to people today. Cookies, whilst I'm not going to dispute high THC oils will cure cannabis cancer to a degree. It will kill tumors, but it is not as effective as full spectrum, complete range of cannabinoids and terpenes that were deliberately removed from cannabis by people that are fated as heroes today, when in fact there's scum working for the police and working for Big Pharma who deliberately destroyed the truly effective cannabis medicine. So we're not being negative, we are being positive in bringing the truth to people. And we live in an age where the truth is not popular.
Exactly. And there is nothing that makes people more upset than an inconvenient truth. And so...
You don't like the truth?
It's like I said, when the science caught up to it, now they have CBD, they've separated all the cannabinoids and all the flavonoids, and now they're making medicines from that while we're stuck with weed that makes you stupid. That keeps you on your couch lot. It's unproductive. It's not good for working. It's not the energizing bunny that we used to have in the 60s and 70s, the old school weed, And that's basically
the young people of today have been lied to. They've been given something that's promoted as elite. Many times you hear about these elite cut-ins, and we hear about all this rapper weed. It is shit. People don't understand that your grandfather was smoking better than you. He had better medicine. Exactly, he had better recreational cannabis.
Exactly. And the negativity with, why are you so negative? Negative? Dude, you've been lied to for 30 years. Dutch marketing fraud, fraud, lies, and deceptions, Dutch marketing fraud, control of the cannabis media and cannabis information, where they didn't even teach photoperiodism in the grow books, the most important aspect of being able to grow year round. They left that out on purpose, and it came up with a thing called cannabis botany. There is no cannabis botany, there's just botany. And so all these kids that are college educated took Biology 101. And in Biology 101, they teach you photoperiodism. All they'd have to do is go back to their old college books, and all the information to grow is right there in Nelson's greenhouse operation and management. And this is what I want to talk about, is the fraud in the industry today is so immense. I mean, I wrote an article, bubble bags, the biggest fraud in cannabis history, because the bubble bags, they dilute your medicine. They take all the High Times would say, oh, forget all those little terpenes, forget all that stuff, and just go after the big heads. Well, those little terpenes are the flavonoids and cannabinoids that make the medicine full spectrum, which makes the medicine work. And so they've been taking out the medicine and just leaving you the THC, which gets you stupefied. And they come up with products like butane hash oil. Rick Simpson, he first started making or RSO using naphtha, one of the most horrendous things that ever happened, because you really don't need it. To make Rick Simpson oil, all you need is glycerin. Glycerin, and just cooking it down yourself and straining it off yourself and making your own tinctures at home, which I've been, teaching that for years. But this seed, as an example, you have Dutch marketing fraud, the Frenchy cannoli. Frenchy cannoli is a fake. Everything about him was made up. He had the nerve to apply for a patent that was that the ice water method patent, which had run out. Now he repatented it under a different his name and some other way, where he now wants a, people have to get a license from him. Let me tell you something. He built a $5,000, $6,000 refrigeration machine, and that swirled the wheat around and separated the oil. The patent is such. It says, in the ice water environment, simple agitation will release the oils and the cannabinoids. It's the whole object of it is to be able to remove the trichomes as undamaged as possible, not by putting a paint mixer in there and to mix up to make your mix. The actual separation is you could do it with a spoon, actually, but we put mixers on there on the lowest possible setting, which I'm doing a whole video on Wednesday, which I'm going to show, and everything that they've done. So they tell you, wait until the trichomes are 50% amber. Well, when they tell you that, your medicine has been depleted 50%. It's no longer THC, it's CBN. So they're not giving you the information that you need to make medicine, because the only time you want to even pick your cannabis is when the trichomes are all cloudy. The minute that you see amber, you need to cut that plant down because it started to degrade.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
Crazy, Joe. We've had Sam the Skunk
for
Man
people to
destroy the
say,
genetics.
why are you so negative? Dude, this is the most corrupt business since it was taken over by the Dutch. The worst thing that ever happened was the Dutch scene. They've mixed everything up with skunk number 1 because they own that genome, and they put the skunk number 1 is basically a genetic marker so that they can further down the road say, oh, that weed is our weed. You got that THCV, or you got that CBD from our weed. We had one guy here who actually wanted to patent everything over 2% THC. Medicinal genomes. That guy is the biggest creep. He went to the Emerald Cup and stole everybody's samples of everybody's entries. Just outstole them. I mean,
who was that, Joe?
I forget his name, but it's Medicinal Genomes. Now they're partnered up with Phylos Bioscience, and I guess Phylos Bioscience sold their company to another company, and they're out of it, or they're partners in it. But they've got a big input. Now they're selling seeds. And it's funny because they're selling feminized hemp seeds and feminized cannabis seeds, and they're saying that they finish in a certain amount of time and everything. But they really don't go into the plants never ever see a male.
Yeah.
If it doesn't see a male, then how does it go into overdrive to produce resin in the hopes and anticipation that it's going to get pollinated and never going to get pollinated? It doesn't even know what a male is. It's never seen a male. So when they use the pollen off a female plant, what they do is they use different chemicals to freak the plant out where it produces a banana on that plant. And then they use that plant, once it does that, to pollinate clones that they took from the mother and from the plant in the very beginning. The first thing they did is to make clones. Once the clones are growing, They freak the plant out. They make it pollinate from a female plant. So they call it, it's a female feminization. And then they feminize the clones with female pollen, right? So those plants never see a male. So that's why you have hermaphrodites, because the plant is not used to being taken to that level. So it knows it's missing something. So it produces its own male. So then you see a plant that's both male and female. And even when you're cutting your plants, when you're making clones and they come up, you'll see that some have male and some have female. Well, that's not normal, even though in the field you see that because everything is being self-pollinated itself. But even then, it's very distinct, the males and the females. What happens is that the males grow up, they seed everything up, and then so you have like a Rhode Island area of basically seeds because it's just pollinating itself. That's what makes it. If you throw 10 seeds in a field and you come back in 5 years, you'll have a field full of weed. You don't have to do anything to it. It just regenerates itself. So anyway, the Dutch fraud here, they created this guy. First thing, I went to the last time I went to the Emerald Cup, I had that guy Frenchie Cannoli come over and just take a look at me just to see who I was. And I noticed him out of the side of my eye. I went over to there was a pavilion there of all Dutch equipment and Dutch fields, and the lady there worked for Mila. And when I went in there and looked at all the stuff with Reinhard Delp, son, I said, look, this is Mila. This is the biggest fraud, and it started really coming down on Mila, and that was her boss. So she got all uptight that I told him that Mila's a piece of shit. Mila's a piece of shit. She actually paid a publisher not to print my second edition. That's how afraid the Dutch are of me. There's no one that hurts the Dutch more than Joe Pietri. There's no one that gives you the correct information directly from science and books, horticultural books that you should have read in college. It's incredible. It's incredible. That's why the information on my growing tips is really important. Well, Frenchie Cannoli is just all made up Hollywood, and that's a lot of what you see in the cannabis world. Is everybody? Oh, you have one guy top dog. You got another guy saying the origins of sour diesel and OG. Those guys weren't even getting high when that stuff happened. That stuff happened in the 70s, when all those land races were available readily in the U.S. and always had been, and the hash we were getting from Afghanistan and Lebanon. Frenchie Cannoli, he never was in Afghanistan where they went in the golden years of hash making. He's never been to Lebanon and seen how the Lebanese do it. The Lebanese hash making technique, the sieving technique, was directly copied by the people who sell bags, bubble bags, triple X bags, Mila's bags, all those bags. The method was directly copied from the Lebanese method, except that in the new method they added ice to separate the trichomes. And man, they went from 2 bags, then Bubble Man came out with 3, then he came out with 5, then he came out with 9. George Cervantes wanted to do 15 bags. My point about Frenchie Cannoli is he's all made up. He's all the information, all the videos, all that stuff was made available to him. The information was available. He's just the poster boy.
All these people are actors. They're puppets.
They're actors. They're actors. They're not the real deal. They're not the real deal smugglers who brought this shit over. He's never been to Landicodal. There's a famous picture of Neville standing in a warehouse in Landicodal, and Bada Dada on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan, no man's land. It's called Pashtunistan, and the Pashtu tribe. You know, he took a picture of a go down of himself holding some resin in his hands, and then he goes into this story how he paid someone to walk into Mazari Sharif and bring him back seeds back to him in Pakistan during the Afghan Russo War. Everybody was trying to get out of Afghanistan. Nobody was wanting to go up to bulk to collect seeds. What the Pakistanis did, they just sold them really good seeds, but from Pakistani plants, which they basically say it's the same thing. You know what I mean? In some ways, but it wasn't, because in Afghanistan you had farmers and you had a pride, and everybody was called the smoking scene in Afghanistan were called Charsi Babas. They were Charsi. That means they were followers of Ashish, and they would say they had an expression, Charsi ne Marsi ekdo tin leko Marsi, which means a Charsi will live forever. When he dies, he'll take 10,000 people with him. There were soldiers. That was like a soldier thing, you know what I mean? So everybody had really pride in Afghanistan. The women, you never saw them in a coffee shop or in a shop. They had tea shops where they had big hubbly bubblies, and everybody would come in there and put their best up there. And I've seen foreigners that went there and took a hit off of some of those hookahs, and they fell out.
Joe, can I ask you, did you ever try hash from Iraq? Because I know that before the wars and all that Iraq used to have similar shops where you could go in and they used to have it displayed on the walls and all sorts. Did you ever try that, Iraqi hash?
There's when you go back to the days of the Lebanese hash trade, then yes, then you could see it back then because they were making their own hash. But in in this century, reefer man went there and made hash for the Iraqis and grew some plants for the Iraqis, and from there that hash came from. I don't know what you're talking, from the old school days or from the new days.
More old school.
They have a no man's land, and that's where he grew, in no man's land, between the fighting Iraqi.
What do you think of Reefer Man, Joe? Do you think he's a good character for us to possibly try and talk to, or is he?
No, he's a racist. His father was the #1 racist in Canada. I have the video, and bombs were sent to him at his house and at his father's house. And so,
I heard all that, but apparently now he's renounced it, said it was an environment that he was brought up in that he now knows is wrong.
Okay, let me just tell you, he's one of the biggest one of the biggest cutthroat pieces of shit that I've ever met in my life. I had an opportunity.
We'll skip him then.
I'll tell you what he did. I had an opportunity to get an agricultural license and greenhouses and a college where I could teach, and greenhouses that I just had to refurbish, and getting a medical license in Malaga, outside of Malaga, it's a socialist state. And I got an office and a phone, all that was free. And all I had to do was invest the money into the grow. And I was talking to Reefer Man about it, connecting with him, see if I could get him in a deal. And after talking to him, I said, you know what? I told him to him on the phone. I said, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to try stab me in the back and try to steal this deal. And that's exactly what he did. And the guy that I introduced him to, someone who I knew from 1970 in Kathmandu, he opened up the Yin and Yang restaurant in Kathmandu, put up the money for the Yin and Yang restaurant. The day it was open, right? His visa ran out and he never got another visa again. So that guy, I forget his name, but I'll remember it in a second. He just totally ripped off my buddy Curry, totally outright, Nepali style. You know what I mean? So I went to him. I said, and he's the one that offered me the deal. I said, wow, man, let's do that. And so I sent Reefer Man over there, and the first thing he tried to do was cut me out of the deal, turn my friend against me. And I said to them, look, the only thing I want is an insured guarantee that I'm going to get my percentage for putting this deal together. And then they count. You're being greedy. You're being no. I wanted you to fucking sign a contract and keep your word to it. In the end, I realized I had two poisonous snakes in my hands, one in each hand, and the only thing that I could do was to throw both of the snakes away from myself as far as possible. That's what I did. That's what I did. I went to the lawyer who was involved in the deal. He was supposed to be the olive oil king of Spain, very rich guy. And I explained to him what went down, how I didn't want to be involved, how the position I took. But Curry was my friend for 50 years. After that, it's been more than a decade now. I haven't spoken to him since. So yeah, this guy Frenchy Cannoli is a good actor. He wasn't there. You know, I have a friend, Rod Fry. He taught the Nepalese how to bat press Nepal a hash, a resin, Afghani style. When they did that, that was in the mid 70s. When they did that, it improved hash making technique 100-fold. You know what I mean? Because now everything was consistent. It was sieved and then batted. The resins, they put the resin in a thick plastic bag, and they would just beat the resin to release the oils, and then they would put it in forms and then press it, and then roll it with an iron roller. You know, and that hash comes. You see it now. It's the best hash that's made in Nepal, and it's made Afghan style. Rod did more to improve hashish than anything that Frenchy Cannoli ever did. Frenchy Cannoli came out of the agricultural industry, you know, so he had a game plan. Everything about him, that he did this, that he lived in India, all that is all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Well, I just saw him pop up the
Nobody
scene one
knows him
day.
in India. They know him now, you know, but they didn't know them then. You know, so yeah, basically the scene is all made up, and now we have a new younger generation like Jeff, and they want to learn all the methods, and immediately they come back with the nylon at wedding dress prices, the bags.
Yeah.
The bags. Immediately they come back with the bags. They even, I mean, you know, I
Hey,
just tell you.
Joe, can I just say something really quick?
Yeah.
For the people who like, they either idolize or worship these cannabis celebrities, especially the people that are from my generation, I just want to say that you don't actually know those people, and that shit has been put in front of you. And regardless if you feel like you have respect for them or not, when you have new information, you have to be honest with yourself and really decide who should be idolized in this industry. I'm not talking about one person specifically. What I'm saying is, if you're going to be spending your money with certain people, if you're going to be spending your time and devotion learning their techniques and methods, you need to know who that person is. And if you've been worshiping somebody who is a piece of shit, it's not too late for you to see the light. And that's really all I got to say.
The thing about it is that all you got to do is have people look at the factory, Park Davis, on the Park Davis factory on the Detroit River, and where they made tinctures, cannabis tinctures, and then you see that's just a small view of how big that industry was prior to Prohibition. The only reason that they made it illegal is because it was out of patent during the alcohol prohibition. Pot became very, very popular. Nothing made pot more popular than the prohibition of alcohol. They had pot parties, tea houses. That's where all those words come from. Pot, the word pot comes from a Moroccan expression that says because there everybody has a pot where they keep their buds and their tobacco chopped up so that they can smoke in their sipsies. And one of the when they leave, they'll say, "May your pot may never be empty. May your pot stay full." So that's where the word pot comes from, you know. But yeah,
Well, Joe,
they're
we've got
listening to the wrong people. You have a lot of people that have spent 30 years in prison for having the freedom that you have today.
yeah. Joe,
You
can I
know,
just
and
say we've got a number of questions for you, so we could do a little question and answer session.
well, let me just finish with French cannoli, and then we'll go
Oh
to
yeah,
question
sorry,
and
go on,
answer.
go with him.
Because that he's a real example of what's wrong in the industry. He had the money to go around to make videos so that they can make impressions on the people who have no clue about hashish or anything at all. The only thing that the prohibition of cannabis did was allow the pharmaceutical companies to DNA sequence it and separate the medicines from it. Now it's legal again, but you can't get a good weed. Before, you could buy it right in the pharmacy with a legal prescription. You could buy it. You know, it was very, very inexpensive. And you know, if you I have a book that shows you all the medicines and all the prices and everything from back in the day. You see, everybody here is that they don't follow their history. Cannabis has a real long history. It's in the Mahabharata. It's been used as medicine for on the Ayurvedic Indian scene and the Chinese scene for 6,000 years. It's well documented. You know, people have been using cannabis for PTSD, you know, for 6,000 years. Alexander the Great gave it to his troops to help them sleep and to help them rest. So here, man, there's been so many phonies. You have Top Dog. You have a guy talking about strains that he wasn't even born when those strains were being grown. You know, we had one guy come in, Top Dog, and the guy, actual farmer who created the blueberry, and the farmer who actually created it. We confronted the guy who's DJ Short, and he was, you know, there was nothing that he could say. There was nothing that he could say. It's just like this Top Dog. I mean, there's nothing that he can say. I mean, you know, if he got it from seed, but from bag seed in Crested Butte, well, then he got it from me, not indirectly, but he got it from me. You know what I mean? And because we were the ones that did that seeding at the University of Kansas in Hayes, Kansas. that seeding led to a lot of the stuff that you see today. You know, and that was, you know, we had all seeds from all the different things that we were selling at the time, and all that was land races. So we put out all land races in those cornfields in Kansas, and all kinds of shit popped out of it. You know, cat piss. I mean, you know, now they call it, they make new names as they go along. You know, dog shit, a diesel, gas. The some of the stuff that came out, it smelled like it had been stuck in a gas tank, hidden in a gas tank of gasoline, and now it had developed that odor. No, it didn't develop that odor. That was the odor that the weed created itself. So I mean, when you listen to anybody in the 80s or 90s or 2000s that say they did anything, they didn't do shit. They didn't do shit. All that stuff was land raised strains from strains that were brought into the U.S. And that's where Skunk Man did the research in Amsterdam at the Horner Farm, the only license in the world to have a medical license to produce medical seeds, right? And I thought he was wanted by the FBI. He was wanted for a drug bust in California, and nobody sponsored him more than the DEA. But yeah, that's the thing with the whole Frenchy cannoli. Whenever I see his name and what he's doing, He built this $5,000, $6,000 refrigeration machine, all kitchen quality, kitchen, and it had a spigot at the end. And then when you opened up the spigot, the separation what was separated, the liquid that was separated with the resin was run through bags. I have a picture of Mark Emery from Cannabis Culture Magazine, who had one of our machines take that machine and then run the machine through bags, which makes no sense.
Hey, Jay,
No
while we're on
sense.
this topic, that's one of the questions, since we can just flow with this. Basically, just kind of go in a little bit more in detail about the filter that you're using at the end and all that stuff, because I think people, for some reason, they just can't seem to grasp what you're saying. Basically, if correct me if I'm wrong, you agitate the material at the top, and then it goes through a 5-micron filter down
No,
into.
okay. In the machine, there's an inside chamber, and
Okay.
in that inside chamber, it's 150 micron screen, right? It's 150 micron screen, and that separates the plant matter from the oils and the falling trichomes. And then the oils and the falling trichomes will go through a bladder that goes into a tube, and the tube goes into a cruet. And so the oils in the cruet, oils and the resin glands are collected in the cruet. That cruet, we run through a 5-micron coffee filter. The only filter that we use is a 5-micron coffee filter. We use a screen only to separate the plant matter from the falling trichomes. It's the same thing in Lebanon. They have a screen that's made into a table, and they'll run the material through the screen, and that separates the seeds and the stems. Then they take that separation, that separation, and then they sieve that through a bigger screen, and then they re-sieve that, what they just sieved from that bigger screen, separating the plant matter from the trichomes. They run it through another screen, so then you only get the fine hash out of it. So there's only like 2 screens in their process. So Mila, when she invented her isolator, she copied the Lebanese method. She's copied the Lebanese method on 2 different things. Her tumbling device was a Lebanese technique. They may have had a big, like 50-gallon barrel, and they put screen around the barrel, and they just would they made it where they could turn the barrel circular, and they put material in the barrel, and then the trichomes will fall through the screen, and then they would take that and process it. When the Lebanese took their hash and processed it, they heated the trichome, they heated the resin before they pressed it, or they put the resin in a cotton bag, and then they heat, they steam the bags with heat, right? And then they would press them. They would press the bags out for any of the water that was in there, or there would be no water. It would just be soft stuff, and then they would press it into the form of the bag. And so you used to get bags with camels on them, or cherry stamps, or this. In those days, the smaller the bag, the bigger the best, but the better the hash. If you got sacks that had a kilo in it, or a half a kilo, or something like that, then that was like a more of a commercial quality. But when you got those little bags, you had that gummy red Lebanese hashish that you never see anymore. When was the last time you've seen some of that gummy red? I know I haven't seen it since the 60s. You know what I mean? And in those days, you used to get really the finest quality cannabis products that were produced in cannabis producing countries from all over the world. And they had been doing it for centuries, and been doing it for the last 100 years and selling it to the pharmaceutical industry, who then would make products that they would sell to you. One of the biggest trades at the time was the ganja and hashish trade from the Middle East and the Far East and from India and stuff, and all of that was exported to the pharmaceutical companies in England and the United States. So you don't have that anymore, you know. So it's but yeah, we only use a 5-micron coffee filter. When you use a 5-micron coffee filter, the oils that are released in the method get reintroduced back into the hash. So we end up pulling nearly 100% of what you started with, oils and hash. But they've taught everybody wrong. They tell you, oh, you have 9 bags, you have 9 different qualities of hashish. No, you don't. You have 9 different grades of trichome, broken up pieces of trichome in varying degrees, and what you get in the end is green. You know, because it's been contaminated with plant matter. When you go get good hash, you never see green. You know, when you look at your trichome, you never see green. You see clear, cloudy, and amber.
Hey Joe, would you maybe talk about the difference between your hash and what dry sift is?
Okay, dry sift with dry sift is basically buds that are tumbled in a tumbler, and then they get the trichomes out through 150 micron screen that engulfs the whole barrel. The barrel is basically a frame with 150 micron screen on the frame. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this. You can take the resin glands that you've collected with your 150 micron screen, and then just steam it. You just put it in big bags and put it in boiling water and get it hot, you know, warm, and then you can build a metal frame, a piece of steel on the bottom, and a metal frame that fits on top, and another piece of steel that fits on the top of that. So you have a frame, say 4 inches by 4 inches by 8 inches, right? Of a metal frame, empty metal frame. Then you have a piece of steel below it. You put the frame on there, fill that with resin. You know, I put plastic in there, but and fill the frame up with resin, and then I fold the plastic over it, and then I take the other piece of metal, and I put it on top of that, and then I put it in a bookbinding press, and then I pressed it. When you apply the steam to the resin, it gets it sticky and it releases the oils, and so it makes everything stick faster. When you beat it, it's like the Afghan method of beating the resin to release the oils, and then they press it into block forms. You know what I mean? So with a big setup of a tumbler, so you had a big one. You know, if you wanted to make the really, really good hash, I would put the screens around the frame of the tumbler at 120 micron. Like I have screens that you can put on my machine that are 120 micron. It just makes a finer product in the end. But you still have that stuff that you separated from before, that you can make into hash. So you use a screen, you tumble it with 150 micron screen, right? So now you have that. Now you tumble that in 120 micron screen. But the stuff that you have left over from the 150 micron, you can press, and then you can press the stuff from the 120 micron. The 120 micron stuff is nicer, stronger, great hash. And the one under 150 micron is great hash, beautiful, everything good. But the one that was done with the 120 micron is a little finer, you know. So that's another way of doing it. But the Pakistanis, they have a hole in the ground, and inside the hole, underneath the hole of the ground, they have charcoal, and they have a copper pot that fits into this huge hole, and then they have a log set up on a seesaw. And so at the top of the seesaw log, there's a like a beater, like a plunger that can plunge in with it and hit and beat the hash. So while it's heating, it's being beat. The same bat press technique in Afghanistan, but on a larger scale. And then they take that resin once it's been beat and they put it in a metal frame, and then they roll it and they press it. That's what you see when you see hash from Pakistan. It's black on the outside, but gold on the inside.
Yeah.
Right? If you buy hash from Pakistan and you get it, it's black on the outside and green on the inside. Well, then you've gotten some indica hash, and all it'll do is put you to sleep.
Yeah, I've seen both types, Joe.
In Afghanistan and Pakistan, they had the indica plants are small plants. I'm growing some now. They're bush-like. They're they're not really big like a sativa. What the Afghans did and the Pakis did is they bred the Indian sativas to the indicas, and so then you got a hash plant. But that was done so many hundreds of years ago. Who knows when that was done? But it was, definitely there was an introduction between the two different strains because they're so different.
What do you think the red gummy was?
From Lebanese?
Oh, that's right. You said Lebanese.
The Lebanese was famous for their hat, for their red Lebanese. That's what they're famous for. They have a red Lebanese and they have a gold Lebanese. It's like I just said, the red Lebanese is the finer strain, and the gold Lebanese is the 100. Say they use 120 as an example. With a tumbler, you use the 120 micron screen to reprocess the stuff that you've already separated from the 100 on a 150 micron screen. So the 120 micron screen, that stuff may come out red. The stuff that you did in the 150 micron screen will probably be blonder. Good, gets you stoned, tastes good, everything good, but not as fine as that gummy red. So that's a way of doing it. I sat in the tribal zone and pressed up 300 pounds, and I had bodyguards, and in the tribal area, they have a place that's designated for hash pressing, and they pay to use it. When they pay to use it, they bring the resin in, they bring their bodyguards around with AK-47s while the pressing is being done. The stuff is being protected in case, because somebody could come in and just rob you. It's the fucking tribal zone, man. That's like a no man's place. It's like all tribal stuff, and so anyway, but I would sit there and watch them. I saw them watch it. It's basically got like two huge logs. One that's on a seesaw where I could be used with. The other log is used like a seesaw to bang the hash and beat it and beat it and beat it. When it beats it, it releases the oils, and then they press it. And underneath that copper pot, there's charcoal so to keep it hot. So when they press that hash, it's hot. That's why you get black on the outside and gold on the inside, because the outside has been heated and pressed, and it got dark, it got cooked. And that's the Pakistani method. The Afghan method.
Well, Howard writes about that in his book in Mr. Nice. I remember reading about that method. Yeah.
Well, Howard was one of the biggest smugglers out of Pakistan.
Yeah.
He moved a lot of. He had a lot. I moved everything by truck overland to India. I'm paying $20 for Afghani pollen, for Afghani resin, pressed in the tribal zone. I only got the stuff that was gold on the inside, not the stuff that was green. But So when Marx did his thing, he had like 3 or 4 different qualities. He had the gold quality, he had the green quality, and he had a black quality. All those other qualities, all they did was put you to sleep, you know. But yeah, Howard moved a lot of Pakistani. I actually know Howard from the days of the Colombian days, because one of my friends knew Howard, and they did a load to Colombia, from Colombia, and it got into to the UK, but it got busted. And the only one that got away with their share was Marx, Howard Marx. And in his book, he let it out that he had gotten his share out before the big bus came down. And my friend, who actually was the one who shipped it, and who had gotten stopped himself on an IRA check post in the 70s. The IRA were blowing shit up all over the place, and so they had check posts coming into London, and they would make you open up your boot. And he ended up opening he ended up getting busted with some of that load, that Colombian load, and he ended up doing some time in Brixton. But he knew Howard very well, and I grew up with that guy. Yeah, I went to high school with that guy. I know him my whole life, and so so I go back, and then of course Victoria and John Chick worked with Howard, and Victoria's boyfriend was Howard Marx's like main guy, Big Mick, and he was the guy who did all the work for him in Asia, in Nepal and stuff, and. So I have ties to him a long time. The only thing I regret is that when I met Howard, I had some great hash, but I didn't feel, I was still coming from the drug war, and I didn't trust anybody. Basically, people here in the West, they don't know how hideous and how it was man's greatest inhumanity to man was the making of Mother Nature illegal, and they've been selling you chemical concocted copies ever since. So I mean that was like a great crime against humanity, because everybody at that point could grow their own medicine, or at least go to a pharmacist and get herbs and whatever you needed, and they had a mortar and pestle, and they made up your medicine right there on the spot. That was much better than what's happening today. So yeah, there's a different way that the hash that comes out with when you're using a dry sieve, it comes out very clean, very clean. Nothing comes out cleaner than the ice method done correctly. I mean, I press it up. I have a press that it makes about 20-gram pieces, and I have pictures of it on my book, on my page, that you can see, and you can see the pieces there. And I have a little press that I made to make those little pieces. I bought the press on the internet. It's basically the copy of a Pakistani press, except the ones that we did were all made from steel, and were handmade. Those frames and the iron pieces. But yeah, you can buy smaller ones on the internet, and and use it to press your resin. Again, instead of using plastic, I use butcher paper. That they sell in the stores.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I put the little pieces of butcher paper in there, put the resin inside that, wrap it up, put the top piece on, and then I put it in my bookbinding press. And it comes out in straight up squares, like we used to get. There's many of those pictures on my book, on my page, that you can put up, and you can also put up a picture of me. I have some pictures in my book that you could probably copy from my Facebook, that you could probably, and if you go to my name, Joe Pietri, then they have all my files that you can get, and plenty of pictures there. And yeah, the hash, what they call hash today, isn't even hash. It isn't even hash. That's why now Nepalese hash is, if you can get it, is like, is as much as the best ingrown, homegrown or indoor grown,
Absolutely.
And another thing that's a misnomer is that indoor is better than outdoor. No,
It's
no, no,
complete
no, no,
bullshit.
no. That's complete bullshit. If you have the perfect situation and you're growing in a climate controlled greenhouse, and I've done it myself, I've grown the same strain indoors and I've grown under HBSs, and then I grew the same strain in my greenhouse. And it was the test came out for my lemon kush at 17, just under 18 percent THC, and not very much production. But when I did it outside, it was nearly 21% THC, and I got a lot. And
Nothing beats sun grown and soil grown.
nothing but beats sun grown. Nothing beats sun grown. And most of the weed that we got back in the day was sun grown.
Yeah.
All of it was sun grown. All sun grown land races.
It breaks my heart to see a lot of these factories kitted out with LED lights, to be honest.
Oh yeah, and
Compared to outdoor.
they're selling you a bill of goods on everything that you buy in the dispensary. But nobody knows where it's coming from unless you have someone in the group that's only doing land races and doing F1, and there's just not that many people that do that anymore.
Have you heard of this? Apparently, they're taking contaminated product, re-cleaning it up, and then selling it again. I mean, and they're trying to somehow, justify it. I'm not exactly sure who's all doing it, but I just seen like a viral post on Instagram, someone talking about how people are like remediating their tainted cannabis and then selling it again.
Yeah,
I saw they were doing low temperature rosin pressing of contaminated flowers. Is that what you're talking about, Jeff?
I don't know.
No, it wasn't
I
rosin,
don't know anything about this idea, but when stuff is bad, I throw it away.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that they clean it up of all. But another thing is that nobody tests their stuff. I mean, here in Oklahoma, nobody tests their stuff. People on the black market, nobody's testing their stuff. On the legal market, they are testing their stuff. I don't think that reprocessed, cleaned up weed you could sell in California, or that reprocessed weed you could sell in Oregon, or that reprocessed weed you could sell in Massachusetts or Michigan, where they have a legal system and everything gets tested. No. In Michigan, they used to have a cup, a medical cup, and I won it once with my Durban Poison, and then I won the Bud of the Month with my sour cherry, my cherry OG, and they had a good scene, everything tested. If you can't talk about your weed unless you have it tested. A lot of times when you have it tested, you see that it's just pure THC, and I'll give you something that's completely full cannabinoid profile, and it's 17 or 19% THC, and it gets you higher than the stuff you just got it that's supposed to be 28% THC.
Hey Joe, do you mind if we do a couple questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things people want to know is, in your opinion, what are the most psychedelic strains?
The sativas, like the stuff from Africa, the stuff from India, the South American stuff, very psychedelic. The Indians use cannabis as a sacrament, and not only as a medicine, but as a sacrament. And so, they wanted to have a religious experience when smoking. So they grew these strains that they got you very, very high. And some people when they're meditating, they go to the temples, they that's what they want. They want to have that experience. They want to have that the energy. Basically, the energy. When you have that energy weed, that weed that gets you up and going, that's when you see when you have the psychedelic experience from cannabis. But I have some stuff that's nearly 30% full cannabinoid profile that is very, very psychedelic. But I like the stuff that's about 20%, 17, 18, 19% THC that has a full cannabinoid profile. Then I can work all day. I can function. I can, you know what I mean? I can do the dishes, wash the car, have the energy to do it. But if I'm soaking the dumb weed, I might as well be home all day.
Realistically, I don't think anyone, unless they've traveled outside of America and gone to a cannabis producing region, I don't think they've actually smoked anything like what you're talking about right now.
No, they haven't. And not only that, they're accustomed to not having it. So when they get it, they have a psychedelic experience and they don't like it because it's too energizing. They've been smoking this dumb weed for so long, they don't know what the good stuff is.
It's like when you just eat McDonald's every day for a year and then you actually eat real food, your taste buds go crazy.
Yeah,
because this is the McDonald's of weed is basically what we're talking about.
That's the Acapulco Gold, the Colombian Golds, that Colombian Reds. That was all psychedelic weed. All the weed that you get from Africa is full cannabinoid profile, is all psychedelic weed. The weed in India is psychedelic weed. Weed in Thailand, super psychedelic weed, dude.
Yeah,
I remember,
when
I remember smoking Thai sticks, and one joint was enough, for a dozen people to get twisted. It was
in the
one hit
70s, when you
stuff.
see people smoking, they weren't smoking fucking gelato cake. They were probably smoking some Indian sativa with their acid, like the two went together.
Exactly. I remember I had this guy. He went on to become a prison guard and work at Rikers. He was a good guy, but that was that's what he grew up to be. But I remember giving him a hit of Thai weed, and he said to me, "Man, what did you just give me? Is that acid?" I said, "No, man, that's just really great weed, dude." He'd never smoked anything that strong in his life. The Thai weed was really psychedelic. You know what I mean? It was just incredible weed. Incredible weed.
Yeah, old timer one said he had some haze. He said he had a particular haze that was prone to some hermaphrodism, but he kept it purely because the high was like acid.
Right. That's that's why they call it the haze.
Yeah.
That's the name for the haze.
So you get like the afterglow of LSD.
Well, you get
in a way.
You get, it's visual.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
It's visual. You don't get it's not as strong as LSD, but you get a lot of the visual stuff.
Yeah, I think Blue Skies was. I want to try the Malawi, because Blue Skies.
Yeah, the Malawi that I told Joe about, that is the only one that I've had that did give definite visual disturbances, as it were, like little green traces sort of thing off the side.
Yeah, exactly. Red traces. I was in Malawi a couple of times, but I was in Malawi 3 years ago, and I collected a bunch of Malawi that I've yet to test, and I'll be testing it here soon. But it's in Malawi, there are fields of cannabis everywhere, but it's a very poor country, and so they don't take care of it like they should. And so I had to really walk and find a field that was really a farmer that I could relate to. But everybody grew cannabis around their houses because basically they could sell it no matter what it was in Malawi to any tourist. You know what I mean? It didn't really matter. It's like Hawaii. It's they never have.
Have you ever had the cob, Joe? The Malawi cob that they kind of ferment underground?
Well,
I'm glad you said that, Blue Skies.
Yes, and the Malawi cobs, they had the same thing in Nepal. They had the Nepali cobs. They would take a weed and they put it in make like a corn a corn husk, make it the size of a corn husk, and then they would take banana leaves around it, or some kind of leaves that they would wrap it in, and then twist it, and then wet it, and then let it dry. And then it would dry there over the course of a few months. And then when they got it, it was that, and you peel the leaves apart, it was really compressed and really, you almost needed a pipe to smoke it. It wasn't like you could roll joints up with it because it was really crumbly. It got really crumbly. But then when you got it fresh, you could make joints. But still, that's a technique that they've been using. Where it came from, probably came from India, but they do it in Malawi too.
I'm
But
glad you brought that up.
Same exact technique.
Um,
I
Joe,
used to go to one guy in Kathmandu, and he sold hemp products, brooms, and anything made from hemp he sold, and he had weed, and he had those cobs, and that was basically the best weed you can get in town. And the sadhus really liked it because they wouldn't have to crumble it up; they could just crush it up, smoke in their chillums, and it was really strong weed. So yeah. Whether it's from Africa originally, I don't think so. I think that everything in Africa, when it comes to weed, came from India.
Hey Joe, would you talk about how you do your curing? That's a question for me for sure, and also like how that compares to different curing methods that you've seen throughout the world.
Well, the thing about it is that here in the States, they can't get it to the shelf fast enough. Whereas before in Oregon, everything was jarred and then burped. So, I mean, I do it with 5-gallon buckets. I have these buckets that screw on tops. And so I'll put a turkey bag inside, and then I'll fill it with, 75%, I've let it hang on buds, until the stem snapped. Just before the stem snapped, it was getting there. Then I would cut it into buds, and then I put the buds in a 5-gallon bucket that I had a screw top with a turkey bag. Inside the turkey bag, I put the weed, and then I would leave the turkey bag open, or I would tighten up the turkey bag, tie it into a knot tight, put it in there, and then open it. Well, at first I would leave the turkey bag open, and then I would seal it at night, close it, but it wouldn't tie the bag up. Once it started to get really, really drier, that you could see it, it dried more, then I would tie the bag up, and I would put it in the thing, and I would burp it as well. Once it was in the turkey bags, the thing about doing it with turkey bags or doing it with jars is that the weed doesn't turn brown; it stays green. But you have to do it right. You can't just, you know what I mean? You just can't hang it. You got to cut it, and then you got to burp it. So when I had it in those 5-gallon buckets, once a day I would open them up and let them breathe, and then I'd shut them up. And then once it got really dry, around 85-90% dry, then I would put it in a knot and make it tight, and then I would put it in the bucket and leave it until I was ready to use it. In Oregon, to sell the weed, it has to be real, dirt. It has to be dry. People don't. I like to buy my weed like it's 90%. I like to keep my weed about 90% dry, and then when I open it up and I go to smoke it, I'll let it sit for a while and dry out a little bit, or I'll dry it out one day and the next day I'll smoke it. That's what I do. But yeah, at one point in Oregon, the only thing you could get was stuff that was at least 90 to 180 days burp dried, where they have those jars, those screw jars with the tops screw on, and put the buds in there, and basically you open them up and air them out, twice a day, and then shut it up at night. So that works really well. But nowadays they can't get it to the shelf quick enough. I spend at least a month curing it to the level that I'm talking about there. I mean, drying it takes a couple of weeks to dry, a good circulation. Sometimes I'll put in a dehumidifier, but if I put in a dehumidifier, you have to be very careful because you don't want it to get too dry. But if you want to hasten the drying period, then you could put a dehumidifier, but a very not a very powerful one like you have in those greenhouses. Something as little power as possible that just sucks out the water. Every day you empty it, you know what I mean? And that'll hasten your drying. But then at some point you have to clip it off the bud, put it in turkey bags, put it in a big 5-gallon bucket, screw tops, and just burp it. That's what I would do, but on a bigger scale. That some people do would do with those with jars. And I've done it with jars too. In fact, I have some pictures of me with some of my jars. You know, and the thing about it is that my weed was so sticky that once you put it in a jar, like I had these little plastic containers that held an ounce, and once I put an ounce in there and shut it, when I came back the next day, I could take it out. It would come out in one chunk because the buds were so sticky that they just stuck together. So I'd have like a little plastic jar full of buds, but all stuck together. Pulled it out, it was all one piece, not pressed or anything. It just stuck together. But yeah, that's a good way of doing it for home smoke.
Unknown caller.
Joe,
Yeah.
you need to pause it for a second.
No, I just shut it off. I'm gonna turn my phone off.
Okay. I got some more questions.
Okay.
So, obviously your technique is so different than what most people think is the most efficient and best way to grow. So one of the things people wanted to talk about was your nutrients and how you feel about pesticides, or what your whole routine is in regards to that, because everybody has their own method that they think is the best. You've got your living soil people, you've got your natural farming people, you've got your people who run a mix of both. You've got a lot of experience, more than most. So if you just want to talk about why you run the way you do.
Well, I want to grow weed as naturally as possible. I want as original as possible. Soil. In Oregon, you could buy your soil custom made by the yard, and you could buy different formulas. So in Oregon, you could buy weed, you could buy dirt by the yard, and then use it for your plantation. And so people would buy hundreds of yards of dirt there. It was a big business, and that dirt is completely hand mixed in big cement mixers, except that they mix dirt. So all the best nutrient are put in and then mixed with the dirt, and then you buy it by the yard. That's one way. I use Ocean Forest or 707 indoors, something that I can buy at a grocery store. Living soil. What I have found in living soil is that you don't, if you're growing for yourself at home, and you're just growing for yourself, and then living soil is a nice way of doing it, because you got very, very clean buds, and everything is under your control, and everything is all natural. you know, and you've created living soil from all the composting you've done, you know, and so and sometimes in this, and when I have a greenhouse, I use compost. So I use compost, I add compost. So I mean that's a clean way of doing it, but the production is not big. So you don't get as big a bud, you know, you don't get the production that you get when you have concentrated formula. And a dripstone is a concentrated formula. It's ionic. So when you mix it with water, it completely dissolves, and it acts like cannabis blood. So if you're growing and you're giving you like in living soil, you have to wait for everything to break up. You got to make teas. You got to do this. You got to do that. It's a lot of work. But I'll tell you what. You take your bud, your living soil bud, and you take a bud from dripstone, with using dripstone nutrients, the ones that I use now. I'll outperform you. I'll be better than you, stronger than you, wider cannabinoid profile, everything will be better. Everything will be better because it's like cannabis blood. In South America, we were going to call it sangre de Maria, but it's a Catholic continent, and you know you can't say anything about Mary, so that didn't work. And then what happened to me in South America is that I had great nutrients, but then I had to get a license, and I've got to have it tested from every country that I did business with in South America. That could be 20 countries, so I'd have to do 20 new tests. What I did in the other countries, I'd have to do it in all the countries. It's not like America, the FDA or anything like that. They don't have that. Every country had its own FDA and its own rules. Complicated. But you don't get the production. But I guarantee that when you use dripstone, you'll never use anything else. Because one, it's easy to use. Two, it has the best ingredients that you can buy in the world. I know the people who make the company. The guy who makes son who created this company. I went to high school with this guy. He knew Howard Marks. Okay, and so that company there, the products are outstanding, and because the plants get their nutrients faster, right? Everything happens faster. Your plant grows faster indoors. You know. Outdoors, it's just cannabis blood. I mean, you know.
So what would you say your average yield per plant indoors is?
It depends on the plant, on the strain.
Of course.
So I have some strains that I have a strain. It's Malawi Gold. It's really good. It has a high percentage of THCV. But it's a thin plant. If you get an ounce or two from one plant, you're lucky, right? So I bred it to my OG, and I got a 4-pounder of one huge bud. I have a picture of it on my Facebook page. That bud was enormous. Very little trimming to do. Some leaves made it out, but once you picked out the leaf, there wasn't much to trim. It was all solid bud. You can see the picture of it. It's you couldn't put both your hands around the flower. That's how big the bud was. And it came off on top, then sort of narrower on top, but then it got fatter in the middle and then narrower. You'll see it. It's an amazing plant. People will say it's an outstanding specimen. Well, let me tell you, I had the Malawi farmer who I got it from tell me that he liked mine better than his. And the what I used was in my OG. So the Africans do good with my OG because it has that lemon flavor, and that goes good with tropical flavors.
So one of the things I think is like for people that grow at scale, you know, they may grow one or two old school strains and maybe one sativa, but for the most part, you know, I don't think that they're just not familiar with the type of plants you're talking about in general, you know, especially stuff like Malawi and stuff. So they
When
probably
you're
have,
growing those plants, you got to flower them faster. You got to flower them sooner. You know, some people like I just did some Africans, and I'm thinking right now they're going to be too big for my tent. You know, so
well, I
they
will say that I really don't know how they were able to keep this light schedule from us, but to me, I 100% agree with you when you say that that's what it took to break through the brainwashing, because
yeah.
I'm seeing people come around once they listen to what I'm saying about the light schedule, and then it clicks in their minds. Then they look on Google and they're reading what I'm saying and they're comparing it, and then they see my plants that I'm growing now, which have been on your schedule for 2 weeks, and they're healthy, they're happy, you know. I think that you're
Have you
right.
shown Joe those pictures of your plants, Jeff?
Yeah, I sent him a
Yeah, I've
couple.
got them. I've got them. The first thing that you'll see with a 12-in-1 plant is that the plants themselves will tell you they're happier.
Well, I
Yeah,
can tell you for sure that's already happened, especially the ones that are in flower. And
yeah.
even though I grew those on 18.6 to start with, you know, I got them in there and they couldn't be happier. So I think that, you know, and I can't tell you, Joe, how many people have messaged me directly to get your exact flower schedule and veg schedule because they want to try it, and they've already got their timer set up. At least 5 people have messaged me in the
Yeah.
last 24 hours.
Well, if you go to Apollo timers, they
Mhm.
have the 12-in-1 schedule right on there.
It's spreading like wildfire, and I think that you're right.
Well, it's just been like, well, I've been doing this for over 10 years, trying to waken people up.
Yeah.
Once I've got them woken up, they'll start listening to me more, because you know why? My 12-in-1 schedule, it was a perfect paradigm, but it was direct aid to all growers. That was my Joe Pietri 12-in-1 advanced growing techniques, direct aid to all growers. So I put money in your pocket. I don't even know you.
And that goes for everyone out there listening.
And that goes for everybody out there. It was you know, it was something that that Shiva told me, you need to put this out, and I did. And I didn't make any money from it. You know what I mean?
Well, my room stays at an even temperature. My plants spray constantly. They grow like it looks like at least 15 or 20% faster. And they grow like you said. I'm just, you know, everything you said is true basically. So if people have been listening,
it grows wider. It doesn't grow to, it doesn't reach to the light.
So far, I haven't topped my plants, so it hasn't started to get wider yet, but it's only been 2 weeks. So I'm sure that the growth structure will change. But either way, regardless, I, you know, just saving on the electricity alone, you know, just saving on the electricity alone is massive, especially for people in like Maine. Someone messaged me today saying that in Maine, they just raised the cost of electricity by 80%.
Yeah.
So, and this is going to continue to go on as we get further.
Repeat that again. What did you say about Maine?
Someone just messaged me and said that they had electricity costs go up 80%. So this light schedule will help immensely.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But the thing about it is your plants will be happier, and you'll get a better plants, because for the first time in your life, you've grown a plant that's not stressed.
They also require less water, and which means in turn they're going to eat less. I mean, that's just
it's going to give you less work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Because you don't have to go in there every day, because your lights are eating up all your fucking nutrients, all your liquids.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
it's massive. It's just.
Are you using a dehumidifier at all?
I do. I use it in my sealed room. Yes.
Yeah.
I have it set up so that I have
always put that on low.
Yeah, well, I have it regulated so that it kicks on at a certain percent.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I just keep it for veg. I keep it at like 55, sometimes 60% humidity. and the temperature, well, especially now with the light schedule, my room doesn't heat up. Like, you get to a point where your lights have been on for so long that your room just can't handle it, and it's just got this constant high temperature. And now it stays at an even, I think it's like 74, 75, which is perfect all day. And just that, it's just funny to me. How could they, the information about phytochromes, how could they keep that from us so easily? Like the fact that there's a pigment in the plant controlling flowering, that just,
Yeah,
how could they omit that?
yeah, because they think you're stupid.
Well,
And they didn't
Well,
wanna
Joe, I
think
want to
that-
say I
yeah,
think it's been
they all
excellent.
think you're stupid, and that you're not going to do the research, you're not going to do the homework. So they're giving you methods that'll give you a result that'll be good enough.
Well, that is the thing, Joe. Most people today don't really do much research. So I do want to thank you for coming on our podcast, not just today, but in general, because I'll say this, I used to have a different podcast. And I remember the kind of numbers that we got, the viewership that we got at the same period, because this new podcast we're doing now is relatively new. People clearly love all your information. They love everything that you've got to say, the truth, the honesty, the information about Sam the Skunk Man, about growing in general, because our numbers in terms of views have been spectacular compared to my other podcasts that we used to do in the early days, so
yeah,
definitely
thank you because finally my message has gotten through. And I realized when I saw my schedule on 12 and 1 on Apollo Timer's web page, I said, wow, look, it's gone mainstream.
Well, many of your videos you've done with us, Joe, are over 1,000 views now, and this is in the early days. And like the ones that got like that kind of views on the other podcasts we did, it took like a couple of months. So I can see in a year's time, probably most of your podcasts are going to be well in excess of 5,000, probably 10 up to 10,000 views, if not more. So
No, I think
you
it's going to
reach
be in the
people.
100,000 range, to be honest with you.
Oh, we'll get there. I hope our podcast will really take
Hey,
off.
if we can reach that, if we can do that, you have to realize we're putting money in everybody's pocket. We're not getting it. We're not asking anything for it.
Here's the thing. I just want to say this
for
to you.
anything for it. We're doing it with direct aid to all growers. Because everybody should be able to be able to grow their own medicine as cheaply as possible. When you go to my website, it's growlikejoe.com. If you want to know about nutrients, you go on the nutrient page. There's 2 buttons to press. There's one for hobbyists and there's one for commercial growers. And there you go directly to the site, and it gives you all the information, all the pictures, all that you do. And then you can buy it right there from the company direct. Right there. Awesome. You just go from my website right to my directory, right to the company. The guy's name is Reggie. He runs the warehouse and stuff. He's an expert. He can tell you everything that you need to know. He'll help you all along. Once you use dripstone, you'll never go back because the results are spectacular. I mean, most of the commercial companies now are beginning to use dripstone. A lot of them are converting to dripstone because it's so far a superior product. When you're buying in bulk like these commercial guys, they cost them like 5 cents a gallon. It'll never cost you 10. It could be between 6 and 8, and I'd be about 8 cents a gallon to you guys. I guess I don't know what the difference is, but it's 30% less. So 30%, it would be 30% of. Yeah, you would get 30. You would get it would cost you about 8 cents a gallon, maybe 8.5 cents a gallon.
I want to say this too really quick, if you don't mind. I just want to say the reason why I think, and maybe it'll take 2 years or whatever, but the reason why I think this is going to be so popular is because between you and Blue Skies, you're giving people an opportunity to understand cannabis in a way that they have never understood. But I will tell you, I think you guys would agree with me, there's always been an undercurrent of people who are saying this current cannabis culture is bullshit. This is
Oh yeah.
what you've been saying this for a decade. Blue Skies, you've been saying this for several years. What we're doing right now is all we're doing is talking about something that people have already been talking about for a long fucking time. It's not
Yeah.
new. What we're doing is we're bringing it back up because it's now or never, in my opinion, with cannabis.
Oh,
It's now or never.
the narrative has been controlled from a long time before we were even born.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
What's
They
been
made
great
it
about our
illegal.
podcast with you, Joe, is that I think we could sum it up by saying that there's been this has been the modus operandi. One, starting with people like Sam the Skunkman, Conor Clark, etc., is to destroy the genetics, as in make them worse, make them less effective. Two,
And leave their
put these
genetic
characters in
marker there.
place and promote them as heroes, whilst they're teaching poor growing techniques from the Dutch fraud, and then coupled with then they're teaching even worse methods of extraction, so that ultimately people's medicine today is from poor genetics and poorly made. So it's like the worst medicine, and we're teaching people with your methods how to make the best medicine with improved genetics, better growing techniques, better extraction methods, and so you end up with a better medicine.
So anybody that's mad at that is just hurting themselves and actually
Idiot.
acting in
Yeah.
against their own interests.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you guys can take this
You need to
information.
go back to the old school genetics, which contain all the old cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids, etc. We need to adopt better growing methods, such as Joe's 12-1 technique, and the extraction methods where you're not losing most of the essential medicine.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we're doing great things for the community. So anybody talking shit about us is just an idiot.
And they don't want things to get better. They have a
Exactly.
vested interest.
They're part of the agenda to keep promoting poor quality genetics and poor quality end result medicine.
And you would think that once it catches on, that the whole scene will change back as far as quality goes, because these kids don't know what good quality is. They really don't. It's like the flavor of the month. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be the flavor. It could just be the name of a flavor.
The flavor of the month is the same as all the flavors in all the previous months. It all tastes the same, and it's all crap.
Yeah, it's all
Somebody was telling me today
flavor.
about a plant they found in one of my packs. It's like tropical juice. It's like a mixture of all pineapple, papaya, guava, mango, lychee. It's people just don't realize the kind of terpene profiles that are available in cannabis, because they've just been given such a narrow selection of opportunity to try it in dispensaries, and through sort of like people like Berner promoting cookies, where cookies has been promoted as the greatest when it's like one of the worst piles of shit ever.
Yeah.
All people are experiencing is this one brand, when there are hundreds of different flavors and terp profiles and different highs to experience.
And my buddy has dispensaries in Oregon, and he buys directly from the farmers. And he has a select group of farmers that they don't grow a lot, but they have really nice. And so he's managed to keep his quality up. But most people don't. They go in. Most people just have their own shit that they're growing. They sell in their dispensaries, and so you're taking your chance right there, whether the grower is a great grower or not. Because they can't wait to get it on the shelf. So it's a strange scene, and we're going to see how it all happens in the end. But in the end, the one thing that you have done is that you have helped me get the word around, because once everybody's on 12-1, I've cost the Dutch marketing fraud. Think about how billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Joe, what we're doing right now is only the beginning.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I intend to continue with this work for the rest of my life, honestly. So, I mean, this is cannabis, and that's why I said what I said at the beginning, and I really didn't spit it out very plainly because I am very emotional about it. When you watch someone die because they don't have access to medication, and the only medication they have access to isn't medicine, and then you find out that this has literally been part of the plan. Everyone can feel what's going on when they go to the dispensary, and it is what it is, and you only have these choices and none of them do anything for you. But when you watch someone die because they don't have access to medication, and what they have access to isn't working. Then
What you got to
give
do, you got to go have that experience where you have somebody tell you that this is the first day I felt my legs in 2 days, and 4 days or 5 days, whatever he told me. Because when you have MS, you go through periods where you just your legs are working, but you can't feel them. So it's hard to walk if you can't feel what you're doing. It's impossible, I think. I mean, so when you see that, and you see people get up and go when they haven't been going anywhere, it's I kept my uncle alive for a couple of years when they diagnosed him for having cancer, and he should have been dead like years ago, but I kept him going.
Yeah, I
But
got to say,
yeah, I mean,
the nicest feedback I always receive is always the feedback that's to do with health.
it was good
helps
for me
people.
because I've always had the reputation in the family as a bad boy. Now I have the reputation as a healer and a grower. You know what I mean? So I like my reputation nowadays better than it was with my family back in the day, because it was drug war time. And the funny
Yeah.
thing is that another thing that I want to do with you guys is I want to help to end the drug war everywhere else, as far as not just the United States, but also in like places like Nepal and Afghanistan and Pakistan. Pakistan has a big medical scene going on there now. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised if Pakistan started to export to the States. They want to. So it's because of the people in Asia, they're still fighting the drug war. They're still fighting the drug war. So it'd be nice to be able to talk to them like I talk to you right now, and explain to them the business that they used to have, that they could still have today. And
well, I think you'd be surprised at how many people in these countries are potentially listening to this podcast. So you could tell them right now,
Oh yeah. Let's see. But the thing about it is that in a country like Nepal, where they're breaking down the doors and burning fields, they're only working for the pharmaceutical companies, because the pharmaceuticals don't want you to have the knowledge nor the genome that basically grew wild there in the Himalayas. They're patenting those genomes. So whenever these countries go out and burn fields and confiscate everything and do that, they're actually doing the work of the pharmaceutical companies. They're not doing the country of Nepal any good, anything. The importance of Himalayan ganja, they've been used there as Ayurvedic medicine since time immemorial. Prior to 1940, the British government used to come to Nepal Ganj and the border of Nepal, and buy the production buy as much as they could get their hands on of weed and hash, that they would then export to the natural business communities, the one in England and the one in the United States, and they would sell their concoctions all around the world. Right, so that's a big business that's right there waiting for it. But the thing is that people in Nepal, they of course they want to go see the Himalayas. Of course they want to go see the temples, right? Even though the earthquake has really damaged Kathmandu quite a lot. It's been overbuilt and stuff. But the people come there and smoke temple balls. People there go to be free. The people in the 60s and the 70s, they came to Nepal because Nepal was a free place and there was no war there. So, a big move, reason that we were so involved in those days with cannabis was the freedom of cannabis, unbrainwashing of cannabis to us, and also Nepal being the one place in the world where we could be free and not have to worry about anything, not have to worry about the draft, don't have to worry about getting busted for a joint. You know what I mean?
Do you think there's still people in Nepal today making the same kind of traditional Nepalese temple balls that you used to
the
make?
Ayurvedic doctors who before in Kathmandu, when they did prescribe hashish, they would get hash that they had hand rubbed themselves.
Yeah.
Because those Ayurvedic doctors, the real ones, they went around and collected the herbs themselves. They knew where to go. You know, that's a big thing.
Because it's one of my pet hates today. People, and it's funny you mentioned the temple ball because it reminds me it's actually Frenchy Cannoli who started calling this water hash, ice hash that he just rolled into a ball, a temple ball. It's like, on what planet is that a temple ball? It's just a ball of hash. Two very different things.
But in Nepal, it's temple balls. It's always been known as temple balls.
Yeah.
Frenchy Cannoli is just somebody that's ripping off the community.
Do you realize his past?
That's all he's there for, is to, and you're also impressed with a guy who had 90% of what he says he's done, he's never done.
He's no longer with us, Joe. He recently died. Quite recently died. Fairly recently.
That was a good thing. Now he's going to have to play. You know, he's going to have to deal with Lord Shiva. You know. Let him deal with Lord. When I deal with Lord Shiva, I will have definitely a lot of promotion going with me. I've done good for everybody. You know what I mean? When I did my 12-in-1 direct aid to all growers, there's millions of people that I kept in business, and I've made their medicine cheaper and their medicine better, and you know it was all because of Shiva. You know, it was a thing that was a universal gift. It's a universal gift.
Joe, just because someone asked, and we're doing the question and answers right now, someone was talking to me about the Strain Hunters show, and basically they wanted to know if they ever actually helped any of those villagers where they took all those land races from. Or
no, all they did was take the land races and pass out their feminized junk. Because when they pass out the seeds there, the farmers would breed it with their own stuff, and guess what? And now it has a genetic marker on it.
Yeah,
it was all a well-planned thing. When they passed out any seeds, every village that they went to in Africa, they passed out seeds. And when they passed out seeds, basically they put that genetic marker into the system. So now you buy stuff there and you'll see that there's some skunk in it. Oh, guess what? That has that genetic marker in it. And one day we'll be dead, and one day we'll all be gone. And people with their memory loss, you know, and what happened last year is not in anybody's memories. They'll call their markers in.
Well, they can't remember anything because they're smoking fucking cookies all day long. And
the thing about it is that they're not the ones that are going to have to remember. It'll be the pharmaceutical companies that have had this game going on. So in 100 years from now, you know, there'll be nobody like me. You know, maybe I'll create a couple of guys that'll follow in my footsteps and not do it for basically as a money-making venture. The reason that I succeeded with 12-in-1 was the correct paradigm, but was the thing that, you know, it was direct aid to all growers. It's me putting money in everybody's pocket. It's Lord Shiva putting money in everybody's pocket. You know, and because of that, it worked. It worked, and one day, you know, that'll be a way to grow. Everybody will be growing that way. No one will be growing that stupid 18 and 6. That's if you're a farmer, you know, where do you get 18 hours of sun, dude? Please.
Do you think the people like Sam who are promoting that kind of light and schedule, do you think secretly they were using the real schedule, Joe?
Of course.
And just giving everyone else the bullshit?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. The pharmaceutical guys, they have all, like I said, 100 years from now, me and you will be long dead. He'll be dead. You know what I mean? And the pharmaceutical companies will call in their markers.
Yeah.
And they invented everything.
Well, as soon as they were done with him, they discarded him.
That's why that's why I sell F1. You know, the other day I was looking over at Phylos, because Phylos went through big changes. They got bought out by a company. So my friend Nishan and his partner, they probably made some millions. They were bought out by a big company. So everything is changing there, you know. And then I looked at their because now they sell seeds, and they had hemp seeds, and they had drug strains, you know.
They do
and
feminize, right?
and they were all feminized. They're all feminized. I found that funny, but you know, that's where the market is, because the Dutch, you know, they don't want you to take their genetics. They, you know, they control their genetics when you buy their feminized shit. You know, I guess they've, you know, I mean, the big monster on the block is the Dutch. The Dutch got people in Holland just sitting there at computers refuting everything that you said, everything that's said. You know what I mean? So it's like weird, you know. But
Well, my thing is now is I'm not gonna argue with anybody if they're under the age of fucking 60 or 50, you know. And at the
yeah,
end of the day, I'm not arguing with anybody anymore. You know, fuck all that. Like, I'm not gonna deal with the bots. You know what I'm saying? I'll just block them and go about my day.
and it's funny thing is that the truth is there. All you have to do is seek it, and the people are not seeking the truth. You have to wake them up. You have to unbrainwash everybody again. Everybody's been brainwashed by people like Frenchie Cannoli, and you know, Mila. You know what I mean?
You know, there's probably a
Advanced
lot of people.
nutrients. I mean, come on.
Listen, there's
Bubble
probably
man.
a lot of people that are sitting there hearing you say that and they're getting really pissed off. But I can tell you 9 times, I don't know Frenchie. I don't know any of these people. You know, 9 times out of 10, we don't know any of these people. And, you know, they idolize people they've never met. So all I'm
Yeah.
saying, do your due diligence and learn about these people.
Oh yeah, exactly. But you know that they control the airwaves. So like, you know, you'll have to go through pages and pages and pages before you get to anything that's not Frenchy cannoli on Google. Or you look for bubble bags or those bags. You'll go through 30 pages of that before you even get the article. If you can find it, you know, bubble bags, the biggest consumer fraud in cannabis history. You know, I've had the Dutch pay people not to print that article.
Well, I saw in your THC Farmer article, like we were already talking about, because if for the people that don't know, the reason why I reached out to Joe was because I was just reading old forum stuff, because I've been interested in this stuff for a couple years now. So I'm just reading forum stuff because it's interesting to me. I come across Joe's story, and then I read several different posts from Joe, and then I read articles, and then I also seen in the THC Farmer article that Todd McCormick showed up in the discussion and had him booted from the forum.
Yeah.
And so that's a suppression tactic. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Like, you just have to call it for what it is. He is these people in general, not just one person. They are influencing the blacklisting and the blackballing of anyone who tells the truth.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's been going on with me, because you know, I've heard a lot. I've been contacted by a lot of people, and all they've heard is secondhand information from people with a larger platform. And then they're like, "Well, I listened to your podcast, and it seems like everything they told me is bullshit. You do have skunk, you do this, you do that, blah blah blah." So, but unfortunately, there's been a huge amount of people sort of influenced, as you say, by these fucking characters. That's all they are, promoted actor characters. It's like, I remember when Frenchie burst on the scene, it was like, I mean, what's he really done? He rolled a piece of hash into a cannoli shape and called himself Frenchy Cannoli, and suddenly that was like,
Not only that, is like his hash is shiny because when he
yeah,
takes pictures of it, he'll take some oil and wrap and put it on the piece so it shines really like a lot when you're taking the picture. So they know every trick to get your attention. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's what it is. It's trickery, Joe, and that's the
Yeah,
whole point of our
it's all
podcasts.
trickery. And
To
the
bring
main
truth.
you know, a Frenchy cannoli could not have happened without Mila
Yeah.
and the pollinator company. It could never
And
have
all
happened
that same
without
crew
Ben
that we've been
Dronkers.
talking about, like Kevin Jodrey, and all that little section in Humboldt, they all sort of like took him under their wing and promoted him, and that's how it works in this game. If you
He might
can
be
get yourself,
he might be the answer to who's the next fucking scumbag to come on the scene.
yeah,
Well, all I know is I just want to go.
I mean, he even calls himself a master a master what is it, a master hustler?
oh, who, Kevin Jones, a career
Yeah.
hustler. All that guy's a career bullshitter and a fucking liar and a fraud and a fucking scumbag. And anytime you want to come on and tell me any different, Kevin, you're welcome to, your fucking pussy. Because all
Oh,
you
yeah.
do is ignore any messages, pretend you don't
All
know
he can
who I am, this, that, and the other. And we all
all
know
he can
sadly,
do is steal from you.
yeah,
That's all he can do.
Kevin's a complete and utter fraud, putting himself out there like a big bad ex-gangster. You're a fucking pussy, Kevin. You're a bullshitter. You're a liar. You're a fucking scumbag who's been deceiving the community for at least 4 years about my skunks. And anytime you want to come on this fucking show and say anything different, you're welcome, but you won't, because you're a fucking lying
Oh, yeah.
pussy.
And I mean, just look at the bubble man. Probably Joffrey will get on the
Bubble
bubble man.
man's a fucking idiot as well.
He's an idiot. All he's ever done is steal people's money. I told you. I mean, I met him. The first thing he did was steal from me. He's not a good character. He's not a good character. I mean,
Well, he's
one
most
time
Sam at the moment.
one of his comments about me one day, this is going back a decade, because he's been around a long time now. He said to me, "Oh, he gives everything away." That was his impression of me.
But then they try to make that their persona is giving everything away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, Frenchy Cannoli has a patent on the ice water method now. If you were to use the ice water method, he could sue you. He's
Well, he
dead,
can't anymore.
I think he has a wife. I mean, but it's just the Dutch trying to make. They created Frenchy. They put him in LA. They set him up. He's got Ben Dronkers behind him, all the videos, everything that he wants. He's got all the money. You know what I mean? And so he's the new hash guy that the Dutch have declared. It's too bad that he died so soon. Though. He died before Milo. You know what I mean? I mean, and that's just it. They have made cannabis like garbage. Hash is garbage. That BHO is garbage. The weed that they're growing, garbage. Dude, I remember back in the day, we'd smoke a pinner. We'd have a pinner and 6 people would be rocked. You know what I mean? I mean, I had people tell me when they smoked their first Thai stick, to hit a Thai, we'd say that, what did you just give me, acid?
Well, I'm seeing people start their day off with a full gram dab of BHO, and I'm just thinking, no wonder it doesn't work for you anymore, because you're just blasting yourself with this fucking THC.
And not only that, have them stop, see what happens. When they stop, they go through withdrawals. It'll take you a couple of weeks to be able to live, maybe even a month to be able to feel like a human being if you stop doing that. They actually took a natural, God-given, Mother Nature-given, Lord Shiva-given medicine for everybody to have, because otherwise we wouldn't have an indoor cannabinoid system. It wouldn't work. We have that. Animals have that. All mammals have that. You know what I mean? Who knows? It may even work on fish. Who knows? I mean, who
They
knows?
already gave
the
LSD
most
to
wonderful
dolphins.
medicine of the world, and then they take chemicals to process it. Come on.
Well, hey, since I got about maybe 40 more minutes that I can talk.
Somebody yesterday said to me, well, most of the tinctures that you meet today, that are made today, are made with alcohol. I said, yes, but the best tinctures are made with glycerin.
Okay, so you're just
food
talking
grade
about vegetable glycerin, and then you're just heating it up. Is there a certain temperature?
No, I put like a bud, an ounce and a half of bud, and then I put like a quart jar of the glycerin, and then I put it on the lowest setting on your crock pot. It's either in the crock pot you have 3 settings: warm, low, and high. You want to put it on warm. You just want to put it on warm, put it on at 8 o'clock, and by 8 o'clock in the morning it'll be done. And then you just use a cheesecloth to separate the buds from the oil. You know,
Okay, so it doesn't need to be decarbed.
no,
Okay.
it's being decarbed right there.
Oh, right. You're right. That makes sense.
You're decarbing it.
So you think on the warm
And
side,
then the diabetics can take the glycerin. Diabetics can't take weed alcohol derivatives. So if it's alcohol tincture, they can't have it, but they can take the glycerin. And the glycerin is so much better than the alcohol that once you try the glycerin, you won't go back to the alcohol one.
that's amazing, honestly.
The glycerin is just easier.
Okay, and then so I've seen people talk about using RSO with a carrier oil. Would that take the place of the carrier oil right there?
What do you mean carrier oil?
So I've seen people say that they would take like the raw RSO and then mix it with olive oil.
That just
Like-
makes it more bioavailable.
Right,
Same
right,
thing as
right,
if they
right.
mix it with
Sort of how left
coconut oil.
Well, they're just putting some cannabinoids in it, you know. So they're making it, you know, it's THC infused or hemp infused.
Yeah, I think the thinking is that the fat emulsifies it in the oil and makes it more bioavailable.
It makes it
slightly-
more expensive, and it makes it more expensive to you. But then you have to you know,
So,
who's
but what
making
you're saying though is the
who-
glycerin is
who is making that?
right. You're right. You're right.
You know, who is
Are there
making?
two types of glycerin, Joe? Is there like I've just popped into my head so far I remembered it. Isn't there two types of glycerin and one is better than the other?
It's the vegetable glycerin, and it's even kosher. It's been blessed by a rabbi.
Nice. The other one I think you're talking about is propylene glycol.
That's the one, yeah.
But yeah, okay, awesome. Well, I've got some glycerin and I've got some flour. I'm gonna make myself some RSO.
Yeah,
Because I just used alcohol and it sucked.
You don't use any kind of alcohol. You just use the glycerin. It gets it's really strong. I had my uncle took a teaspoon, a tablespoon, and I told him, you know, take like a quarter teaspoon, half a teaspoon. Don't take too much. He took a tablespoon. He's so fucked up, but he couldn't move. You know, he's like 94 years old. He says, man, wow, that stuff really is strong. He says, you know, I've taken it. I said, but I can't go anywhere. I can't move. I said,
Yeah, it's a good
I said,
idea
hey,
for
man,
non-smokers.
you took too much.
To start
You
out
took too
small.
much. So when you make the glycerin, it already decarbonizes it nicely, and then you get it in the next day. You got to be very, very careful who you give it to because it's very, very strong. So, you know, a teaspoon,
small
a
doses.
tablespoon is too much. A teaspoon is probably the most you can take in a day. But some people can't take a teaspoon. They take a quarter teaspoon, you know?
Absolutely. Hey, so another question someone had was if you would basically give a rundown about your strain list and describe the plants and everything
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good.
that you have available.
One second. Let me find it.
While we're waiting for Joe, can I just ask you, Jeff, how did your essence, your essence experiment go?
It went awesome, and I actually used glycerin for that, and it actually retained the smell. So that was
Retains the smell.
yeah, it was really awesome. The terpenes were
retains the
right
smell.
there. You could tell they were just right there.
Wow.
I
So
have a
basically-
strain. I have a strain that's called I call it Blue Dragon. It's from the Kumbum Valley in Tamil Nadu, and the farmer there has been growing for he's an older farmer, older guy, and he's been growing for a long, long time. So it's a real land race. I had it tested on Phylos, and so it's the strongest plant I've ever had. It triple stacks your trichomes, you know, and so
What do you mean by that, Joe?
it makes trichomes on top of trichomes. So like if you I can send you a picture of it, and you'll see it. That's on its fourth week of it's going into its fourth week of flower, and it's already like getting white. And then so it produces so much trichomes that it produces trichomes on top of the trichomes. You can just see it under a microscope. So it's a very sticky resinous producing plant, and the resin is purple. Okay, so that plant is like the best plant I've ever had in my life so far. And so I hit that with all my stuff. So I've
How would
got
you
like,
describe the terpene profile?
I have the terpene profile is not as, is like, you know, if I had a terpene profile, everything that I have, you know, I couldn't afford to do it. I have had it DNA tested. It's on Phylos. So
I guess what I meant is just what it smells like.
well, you know, you know, it's hard for me to say that because usually in my greenhouse, I'll have like 12 different kinds of plants. But all I can tell you is that this plant triple stacks trichomes and is so sticky that when you walk by it, it'll stick to you. The leaves stick to you. You know, it's a very resin producing plant. 24 to 26% THC as it is. So I took that plant and I hit it with my lemon kush. I hit it with my Burmese Maui Durban. Look at that. It has a blue dragon and it has a Burmese Maui and a Durban poison mix. Then I have a blue Panama. The blue Panama is all my Panamanian genetics, Panama red. So it's Panama red and a blue dragon. Then I have blue blazing 5-0. There's two different kinds of Hawaiian. Then I have a blue Nigerian. That's F1. It's a blue dragon and Nigerian hash plant. Then I have blue Aztec. Again, that's a blue with Acapulco Gold and other Mexicans that are in there pre-1972. And the thing with Panama is also pre-1972. The blue Panama is pre-1972 and the blue Aztec is pre-1972. Then I have blue Acapulco Gold times Maui, my 5-0, my Maui, my Kona Gold. So it's blue dragon, Acapulco Gold, Kona Gold. Then you have blue dragon, Burmese Maui. Then you have blue Acapulco Gold. Then you have blue Mayan. Blue Mayan, again, is more Central American, Colombian strains. And then you have blue Durban. So it's that's an F1. It says F2 on my catalog, but it's actually F1. It's blue dragon and Durban poison. And then I have blue elephants, which is purple Urkel and blue blackberry Kush. So now it's a blue dragon, blackberry Kush, and purple Urkel. Then you have a blue Boricua, which is an Afghan indica with my blue dragon. So that's an F1. Yeah, blue Michoacan is that plant is a nice plant, commercial, 17, 18%, but very strong, very beautiful taste, but it's also mold and mildew resistant. I have blue Ghost Poison, blue Black Maui, blue Malawi OG that has a THCV. You have blue Orissa Gold, that's F1. Then you have blue Burmese Maui Kona, another three-way African with the blue. Then you have blue with Kona Gold and Durban Poison. Then you have blue with Black Congo and Durban Poison. Then you have blue Bongi Haze. Bongi Haze is a really old school haze. Has nothing to do with the skunk man. So it has a blue dragon and Bungie haze. You have blue red Congo. That is a THCV. 26%. A lot of this stuff is high percentages of full cannabinoid profile. Zulu Gold, which is an Indian and an African F1. Then I got Blues Joe's Haze, which is my haze, and Blue Dragon. So here all the old school and new school and landrace genetics F1 are right there. So you get like you get F1s blue Nigerian, you get the F1s blue gold Zulu Gold, F1s, what else? Ooh, that blue Acapulco Gold, that should be really nice. But all of these, like, there's only two indicas here, which would be the blue Boricua is an indica, and let's see, there's one more.
Blue elephants.
Blue Elephants. That's an indica. That's a 50-50 indica with a Blue Dragon. So there's two indicas there. But most of these are rocket fuel sativas. But that's a good mix, like the Burmese Maui Durban, you know. You have Burmese Maui from the pre-1972. And that Burmese Maui is that we had a Maui female, but we didn't have anything to mate it with. So we mated it to a Burmese. So when you breed it forward, if you bought it at that level, it would separate into the both. And so I took the indica out of it and used it on some other projects I was working on. But this one here is off the hook. I've only seen the only ones I've seen on this line, out of these lines, have been the originals and the Blue Dragon. But some of this stuff here is going to be so out of this world that you can only imagine. You know, I mean, here you go. You got blue Burmese.
Panama Red.
Yeah, the Panama Red is the blue Panama. That's a huge plant that you need to grow outdoors. You know, or if you're going to put it indoors, you got to flower it quick. You know, 3 weeks, put it into flower. It's still going to get huge. A lot of these sativas, when you grow them inside, you gotta turn off. You got to put them into flower sooner, because what happens is you let them grow too big, and then they outgrow your room. But so don't be afraid to start your plants in flower in 3 or 4 weeks. Don't be afraid. Because these sativas will outgrow your room.
Hey Joe, will you tell everybody about how, like, what makes your Durban different than everybody else's Durban?
It's the original. It's the one that Philo's Bioscience said is one of the top 10 most rare strains in the world.
Yeah, I see Malawi's on that list too, and you got that in the OG, so that's pretty cool too.
And that's an old one too. I got that there was a guy on the scene called Afro Man, and he had a company called Afro Pips, and he strictly had land races, you know, and he was a really good connection. He was an Afrikaner, and then he died. When he died, his son got the business, and his son sold it.
Do you remember how I told you I put his seeds out after he died, Joe?
Yeah, right. You told me that. Yeah. That was the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, I didn't know him personally, but it just seems like a tragedy to see like thousands of his seeds sat there doing nothing.
I met him at Canna Trade in Bern, and he had a little table, little thing. I mean, it was like a tenth of a booth. You know what I mean? And he just stood behind it and sold seeds, you know. And I was the only one that went to see him. Not many people went to see him. Everybody was after Arjan or Sensi Seeds or this one or that one. And the real shit was right there.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey Joe, what is the Blue Blazing 5.0?
There's two different kinds of Hawaiian. It's Blazing 5.0. And so it's Blazing Blazing is a Hawaiian, and the 5-0 is a Hawaiian. That's a double Hawaiian. Pre-1972. Another one in there is the Blue Acapulco Gold. You know, but the Blue Malawi should be really nice because because the Blue Malawi is that Energizer bunny that gives you the munchies. You know.
I got another.
No. Actually, that one has THCV in it. No, it doesn't give you the munchies. I'm wrong. That has a THCV in it.
Hey, so I got another question. So this person says
that Malawi tested out at 2% THCV.
This is regarding your strains too. So he says, I'm an Indian from Kerala, and Udeki Gold sounds similar to Iduki Gold, which is what Kerala is renowned for the most. Any comment on this?
That's true.
Okay, awesome. And then he says also Orissa Gold and Shalivati are descendants of Iduki Gold, if this info helps.
Yeah. Udigi Gold is the original. I have the original. I think I had it tested too. DNA tested.
I think it's really awesome just seeing all the different regions in your selections, honestly. That's really refreshing because, you know, we're just so used to somebody making up stupid names for their plants. And you're making sure that the country of origin remains in the name. I just think that's so important.
Oh, yeah, it's important so you know where they came from.
Joe, do you think Phylos, I mean, just since, you know, I found out it was quite nefarious, I stopped following anything to do with it, to be honest. I didn't want any association with it. But is there either an existing Phylos now that we can trust, or is there a different kind of company?
I don't know anything. I don't know. Phylos was the only one that I've heard of, and I used them, and I did 9 tests with them. And then they try to sell me this test where they could tell if your plants are male or female.
Yeah.
And they told me all my plants were male when were male.
And how did that test work, Joe? Because there's some sexing companies available now where you just grow the seeds, and when it's got like its first leaf, I think you can then take a snippet of it and send it in the post, and they can test it and then tell you if it's going to go on to be male or female. Was it something similar to that, or did they actually just test the seed itself?
I got burnt on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably because I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I mean, I'm 100 years old, so it's difficult for me to keep up with just my password. You know what I mean? I've got, you know what I mean? I mean, I have everything. I have all the equipment, but I don't have the, you know, the knowledge. But I'm getting more knowledge every day. You know, I'm gonna be starting another. I'm gonna bombard the YouTube and everything with. I'm gonna be doing this. They're coming here on Wednesday. I'm going to be making some hash, and we'll be showing it on the internet and giving it to you guys to show.
Well, thank you so much.
I definitely want to see that.
You're really doing the world a service by not gatekeeping this information and giving it away freely. I think there's a lot of people from your generation that could have done more to help patients and people who actually need it by just giving this information. You know, I understand everyone has to eat, you know, everyone has to survive and make money off what they love doing. If you're going to be in cannabis, obviously you should be able to support yourself. But as far as I'm concerned, with the information you've just given us freely, I mean, these interviews are some of the most important cannabis interviews that have ever been done, and that's because, you know, of you, man. So you know, otherwise we wouldn't get all of this information in one package. We might get a little trickle of information here, a trickle of information there, but it would never be as straight and to the point as it is now. So I just want to thank you again for that, honestly.
I definitely want to thank Joe too, because like I said before, you know, our podcast is doing great, but that side, as you say, just the general ethics is so nice. I mean, even somebody I did respect like Old Timer One, he would never reveal anything. He would never give anything away.
I can't thank you enough for having that guy from Corella on there, because I'm trying to get more of a voice there in Asia, because Asia is confused. They're doing the drug war thinking that they're making the US happy while the drug war is ending here. And all they're doing are doing the work of the pharmaceutical companies, because while they destroy their originals, their originals are being patented by the pharmaceutical companies.
Well, one
So
of the things we do is we focus internationally. You know, we really try to reach out to people all around the world, not just in America, honestly, you know.
But
And
you're walking the
I
walk
gave
as
that guy
well,
your
Jeff,
email.
because you're actually doing Joe's lighting techniques. Probably a lot of people, they wouldn't want to try it unless they saw somebody else do it, you know, and you're actually doing that and showing the plants are looking superb.
Absolutely. They've never been happier. So, and I made sure to give that guy from Kerala your email. So he'll definitely probably be reaching out to you. But yeah, you know, I
the
mean,
Odiki gold seeds, those Odiki gold seeds are one of the most rarest sought after seeds. I mean, it's just, you know, that's that strain goes back, you know, probably 5,000-6,000 years from those Hindus. Where he is, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, South India was like the center of Hinduism in the world, and from there it got exported to Thailand, to Cambodia, to everywhere else. You know what I mean? Cambodia is more Hindu, and Thailand is more Buddhist, and you know what I mean. And but you know, they got exported everywhere, and wherever they were exported, they exported their medicine, which at the time was Corella Gold, because that gave you the pickup and the energy. It energized you and stuff, and made you think out of the box and all this other stuff. You know. So that's an important center. Corella is an
That is
important
such an
center
important
of
fact
cannabis.
as well that you mentioned, Joe.
As most important fact about Corella is that from there it got exported to Africa, and from Africa it got exported to South America. So you actually can trace that Corella Udiki gold to Africa, and then you can trace it to Colombia, because that was a big black slave trade was there, and a big slave trade was there, and so you see the lineage right there, coming from India, going to Africa, Africa to Colombia, and it's the same stuff. When you DNA sequence it, you see that it's the same lineage. The plants look the same too. They're like huge Christmas tree type plants. It's the same lineage. You can actually trace it. Corella was the start of medicine. It was always used as medicine.
so you just
I
mentioned
definitely want to reinforce that point that you made, Joe, about the fact that there used to be, there still is, but there used to be cannabis that would sort of open your mind, the unbrainwashing cannabis, the opposite to the stupid weed, the stuff that made you think, the stuff that even put thoughts in your head that weren't there before. I've had experiences where I've smoked
me too.
those kinds of cannabis, and you could just be relaxing there smoking it, and something entirely unconnected to what you may have been thinking about, if you're thinking about anything, will just burst into your brain, and it'll be like a revelation, it'll be an inspiration. And that is something so important, so just so different to what you can experience with modern cannabis. You just don't experience that kind of thing. You just experience lethargy, boredom, dumbness. Whereas there's cannabis out there that will literally, you know, spark your synapses and open your mind in ways you didn't know was possible.
Yeah.
And that's what they were scared of, the weed that opened your mind, that let you see through the bullshit that they were putting, you know, in the media, etc., that were dumbing people down, that actually woke people up in a meaningful way, you know?
Yeah, they didn't want that. They didn't want that, and they still don't.
No, absolutely, they don't. They don't.
And they still
but
don't.
it's important that people realize that there is that cannabis that exists, because if you've only experienced cannabis from even the 90s onwards, say as far back as that, it was starting to be absent from what was being put out there. You know, you wouldn't find it in the greenhouse strains and or the Dutch strains. You know, certainly past 2000, there is no cannabis that does that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's important to go back to the old school, because there was cannabis that used to exist, it still does exist, that people aren't aware of, that has that kind of specific effect, that kind of, like, will give you a revelation when you're smoking it, you know, that will
Yeah.
inspire you, that will awaken something to you, or that, as I say, that will just put in knowledge that you never, something you never thought about. I've had that experience where I've just been sat there
You
smoking,
thought about
like,
stuff that you never thought about before.
exactly, and it will be a truth. It'll be like a universal truth that will just hit you, and you're like, man, that's a truth. This has
That's
given me
what
something.
cannabis did. It got the light
Yeah,
bulb lit.
exactly that, Joe.
I could only imagine
That
it
light bulb
in a
moment.
really well-made hash form too.
You know,
Sorry, I missed that, bro.
I'm really looking forward to going back to Nepal and talking to the people there. You know, there's very few of us left that have been through all this whole thing from start to finish. You know, and so a lot of information. One of my things has been there's a lot of information. It needs to be out there. People need to get the credit for what they did. You know, and we were bringing in real medicine here, you know, and here nowadays they even, it's surprising that in Nepal they haven't started a Ayurvedic hospital and really start, you know, branched out doing that Ayurvedic medicine and natural medicines there. They're all there, India too, you know, but they're all super educated now and they're all following the wrong lead. You know, and you know, cannabis wasn't it was known as an intoxicant, but it wasn't. There wasn't any kind of doper scene. It was always used as medicine. You know, so it's good because hopefully I'll be able to reach some people in Asia and get them to start thinking my way. In Nepal, they're about 70% of the way to legalizing it medically. See, you know, they should be charging people, everybody who wants to go and smoke hash and temple balls in Nepal, they can get a license at the airport for $50. And that alone would bring 25, 30, 40 million dollars a year to Kathmandu. How many tourists come there a year if it was open again? If they brought back the love and, you know, the tranquility there. I don't know if they can ever come back, but let's hope that we can find a place where it's totally free again. You know,
I think that's really all I give a fuck about doing, honestly. For you know, is just really making a difference. So you know, but I don't want to cut everybody off, but I do have to get going. So
me too. I got to go too. So
okay.
let's get together again. Let's see what happens. There's a couple of others. One show, the hash smuggling show.
Mhm.
You can use a picture from one of my pictures. You can impose there. That's the only thing that doesn't. There's no picture on.
There's a thumbnail, but it's a view on the Tibetan pony for that one.
Okay.
I could change it to a picture of you though, like with one where you're smoking.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, well, thanks for everybody listening. Thanks, Blue Skies. Thanks.
No, I have a picture of a cruet of a coffee filter and of a cruet where you can see the oil and the
Yeah,
resin glands and the water floating on top.
I'll make that this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we would definitely, as soon as you get that video made, let us know, because I would like to, you know, promote that for you. Like anything I can do to help promote you and help get this message out, I'm willing to do. So just
All right,
anything you
good.
need from me, just let me know, you know?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on too.
Okay. Well, take
Thanks,
care.
Joe.
All right, take care.